Today, we have some fun little lights in the house. They're relatively new, but they're pretty unique, pretty cool, versatile little lights, and we want to talk through some of the unique features that kind of set these lights apart from a lot of other lights on the market.
And at a time when everything is getting bigger and the innovation seems to be on the big end of the spectrum, 1200 watts, 5000 watts, it's cool to see some innovation on the small side using the smallest possible lights that we can make and all the accessories and everything that goes along with them. So
yeah, and I think the important thing to note with that too is it's not just the small factor, but again, how versatile they made these lights. Because there is a lot of, hello, hey. Thank you. That's our mail guy. Sweet guy. The one thing to note with this is not just it being a small light, because there's a lot of small lights on the market, but I think what Godox is doing here is kind of unique, and I gotta give them kudos for that. They really thought through this light. They really thought through every application of how a little light like this could be used.
Both versatility on the front side, the cob side, and on the power side too. And before we get too far, just take a look at this beautifully cute little C-stand. We kind of bought it as a joke, and now we've found multiple uses for them already, and seem to be a great application for a light of this size. So let's jump into it.
Yep. All right. So this is the Godox MS60R. Now there is a few different variants of this. There is a bicolor version of this, and then there's also a bicolor and an RGB one that is cheaper, that strips away some of the professional features. Now the MS60R is the RGB WW and kind of the top tier one with some of those professional features like CRMX. And what we have here is actually the 4-light kit. So it comes in 2 cases, 2 similar size cases. This one houses the lights, and we will jump into this one first. We will talk about the power in a little bit. But we'll start with the front, where the cob is. So within here, you actually get a little mounting piece right here. We actually have it directly mounted to this little ball head here on this baby C stand, which is great. I love that you can remove these. It's a small detail, but it's really, really nice for a few reasons. But we have that removed and in here. Kind of the main thing that it comes with, the main thing that you'll probably use a lot or most of the time, is this little lens. It focuses it in. So right now, the light itself is just bare. It's kind of a Bowens style mount, but it's actually a proprietary one by Godox, about similar size as a mini Bowens mount. And this is how all of the attachments go on. So it just simply pops on and snaps on, and it's really solid, which I like, and feels really good. And then there's just a little release button to release it and pull it off. So pretty simple there.
The attachments over here, one of the first ones you see is this stack of diffusion, I think, what would you call them? Because yeah, they took a lot of inspiration from their photography flash line. So there's a lot of different options there. And what's nice is inside this case, there is actually a little a grid of what they all are and what they do. So you don't have to memorize what all the colors and everything are. Although using them, getting some practice with them and seeing what they all are is helpful too.
Yeah, so with these diffusers, for people who are strictly in the video production world, these may seem a little odd. But for people who are coming from photography and have used Godox flashes, these are a pretty common thing, and I love what they did here. So the concept, you have a lot of these small little diffusers here, but that is not the extent of it. So in addition to that, you also have kind of a half dome guy, and that again, magnets to the front of this. And then we also have the barn doors. So I love this because again, you kind of have your little lens here for this that pops on. And then again, this is just magnetized on, so then you can use these little barn doors.
And these magnets are strong. They are stronger, much stronger than they need to be for the little amount of weight that they're holding, but it's nice to feel that rigid of a connection on the end of the light.
Basically with this barn door attachment here, you don't have this magnet mount on the bare light, but there's one kicker with this. They actually thought through that. Again, they thought through so many details on this light, which I just love. They have this little plastic piece so that if you don't want to use a lens on this, you can just pop this guy on like that.
Now all your magnet attachments work again.
You can use all those magnet attachments with or without this lens here.
Next up, we have the zoom beam
zoom lens.
Zoom lens.
Just a standard zoom lens. Kind of will remind you of a Fresnel style lens. It is not, I don't think technically a Fresnel. It doesn't have that kind of pattern on it. But it does give you a nice little range. So it's kind of similar to the lens we showed here. This one's a fixed one, but this one you have that zoom functionality from 15 to 30 degrees. So again, this functions in a very similar way, using that same attachment, pops on, and then you have 15 to 30 degrees. Now the cool thing with this is
there's more attachments for that.
And there's more. It just keeps going. That's a cool thing with these lights is the applications they feel endless.
So a pancake version, and this is, I'll let you talk about it.
Yeah, so this one's a little unique. They have two different modifiers attachments that can do this. And this is kind of their lightweight version, and it utilizes the zoom lens as well as this. So this is the DL5. It's a 5-degree spot. So you can pop it on, there's a little ring here, and on the front of this zoom lens, there's actually these kind of cool mechanisms that uses this little lever, and it actually locks this piece in so that you put it in, and then you slide that little yellow lever, and there you go. It's attached. Now, from there, you can use the light just like this, and it kind of has it focused. But the real beauty of this is when you pop this bad boy out and use it in this configuration. So this is where you get that 5-degree spot. Now, there's not a lot of lights, cob lights like this, where you can get that tight of a beam, which is really, really cool. And it kind of utilizes that, this is a 60-watt light, so it's not a massive amount of output. But when you got that tight of a beam angle, it's really putting out a lot and can work as an accent light in a lot of different applications.
And another note is the zoom functionality is actually backwards now because of the reflection. So when this is attached, your control of it is actually going to be backwards from what you are normally used to. But next up in the kit,
wider is tighter and tighter is wider with that attachment on. It's a little weird, but again, I just love how tight you can get with that.
Up next, we have a soft dome diffusion that is, again, built to use a couple different ways. And you can adjust it, flatten it out, or you can make it that bulbous, bigger spread like is in this plastic magnet version.
And this just attaches straight to this, again, proprietary Bowen style mount, just like so. Like Keen said, you can use it in a few different ways. You can pop it in like that. You can actually pop it in even more. There's just a lot of different ways you can use these lights, which is really, really cool. So that is the kind of diffuser style ball there.
I think the interesting thing will be to see how these hold up long term. They are made of silicone, so they, there is just that variability of, wear and tear. How long are they going to last? This feels a little thin here, but for the flexibility that you get, it's a great option, and comes right in the kit right off the bat. You don't have to purchase some of these accessories in addition to the kit that you get. So,
yeah. And we're talking about a lot of the accessories that come in this 4 kit, but it is worth noting there is a ton of other attachments that Godox makes for these lights, which is really, really great. One of those being probably the biggest thing that drew our attention to this light was the spotlight mount.
Yep.
Now, that is where I think this light is really, really going to shine for us. And again, that is what ultimately made us want to get this light. A lot of these attachments are really great to have these options, but we find ourselves using spotlight mounts a lot. We just love the versatility of them. You can really do a lot of fun, creative lighting stuff with a spotlight mount. And the beauty of those is that they are tiny. They're one of the smallest spotlight mounts I've seen. They attach right to this, and it is just a super compact package, which is really, really cool because we have used spotlight mounts, but when you're using them with a 150, 300 watt light,
they get long, fast. And then if you're in a small room like this, or even in an office, you run out of room or they show up in frame really, really easily. So those larger lights, while they're great with the spotlight, it's really cool to see something this small, this compact. Even though it is a smaller wattage, we generally are using those 300 watt lights at 10%, if that, because it is such a dialed in beam. We don't need a lot of light. We just need a little pop of, whether it's trees or a little accent in the back coming through a window. That's something that we don't want to blow it out. We just want a nice little texture to appear on the wall.
Yeah, so we're super, super excited about those. Those are for pre-order right now. They're not out, otherwise we would have them without a doubt because we are so, so excited about them. The other last thing about the spotlight mounts is I was really happy to see, number one, there's a 50-degree lens option with it, which is super wide, a lot wider than you typically see with a spotlight mount, which is really exciting. And then they're coming in pretty reasonable at, I think, like $150 to $200-ish, depending on what degree you get, which is really cool to see too. And I believe they're rotating, if I'm not wrong, which is another great option to have. So super versatile with those.
All right, a couple last things that come in this case that we do not have here are a couple little soft boxes that we have set up back here. And these are, again, this proprietary mount, Godox mount, but you know, we kind of laughed at the size of them, but for a little tiny accent, again, just work really well. And they are a small softbox. There is a square and then a octagon or hexagon little softbox that come in this case. So now we have wrapped up most of the attachments that come with this on the front end.
One last thing we forgot.
Oh, yes.
The list of these accessories never ends. They do come with these little snoots as well. Yep. Again, check out Godox's website if you're interested because there's just so many options. Yep. But let's get into the power stuff.
Yep.
So, power. We'll start with this case. This has a few different options. So, first of all, with this 4-kit light, you get these Godox proprietary batteries. So, currently what we have on right now is the AC power. There's a similar style quick release button here that releases the power from the back side of these. Now, it comes with 8 of these, which I think is great. Yep. Because we found ourselves so many times where if you're constantly having to cycle out batteries, it's nice to not have to worry about, you know, if you have 4 lights and 4 batteries, it's a hassle, right? Yep. One of them dies and then you're having to figure out how to power it up. So having twice as many batteries is really nice. I really like these just because of how clean it makes the entire setup. So again, it adds very little. It just inserts into there. And we used it for something back here we'll show you in a second. But I really love these little batteries. My biggest complaint with them, I don't know why they didn't do this. It's really surprising. They have indicator lights on them, and it uses USB-C charging, which I love. I think that's great. I think everything needs to continue to use USB-C. But there's, unless we can't find it.
There is.
He found it. Wow.
I found it. On this, there actually is an indicator light. It is very hard to push, I think is part of the problem, and doesn't look like it should be pushable. But there is an indicator light. I found that out today.
You just blew my mind.
It comes with everything we want.
Okay, so we've been using these for, I think we got them in 2 weeks ago. This is the first production, and yeah, it's pretty difficult to push them.
Yes.
But that's fantastic.
Basically, a fingernail has to hit them.
You can see the indicator. I thought it only showed up when you were charging. I have no complaints with these batteries in. They're perfect.
And the fact that it comes with 8 is amazing again. That was a surprise to us. Just kind of assumed that 4 come in a package. And yeah, being able to charge some behind the scenes and just swap them out, because one of the fixtures we had here was on a battery the whole time, and we didn't have to worry about that. We have a ton of them on deck ready to use, even though I don't think we changed them. I don't think we changed it in the 4-hour production that we had. So
no. Now, the other thing, if we're talking about batteries, some of you may not love proprietary systems, and I totally get that. There's a lot of times I'm not a huge fan of proprietary stuff. And again, this is where Godox has thought through different options to make it work for you. So obviously the kit comes with these proprietary batteries, but if you're buying these lights individually, you have another option. It doesn't come with this kit, but it is a plate that attaches onto here, and it actually uses NP style batteries. So if you have a ton of NP style batteries, you don't want to do the proprietary system, you don't have to, which is really, really cool to see.
Yep.
So those are your battery options. Now moving to if you are hardwiring this puppy and just going to keep it continuously powered, it moves on to this guy.
You have a couple different options for powering with this. You actually have the AC right here, which plugs right into the wall, but then you also have the option to use USB-C to power this, which cool to see multiple options right on here.
One last thing with the USB-C too is that there is one on the unit itself in addition to the power supply, which is really cool. And when you plug into this USB-C here, which I have a power delivery compatible battery here, this is a core battery. When you plug it in and you turn it on, so we get We're getting some light right now. It actually displays how much power it's consuming because it's using power delivery. So you can see it's pulling 30 watts right now. I tested with another battery. I think it was showing 45. It's just kind of a nice little small detail that it's displaying that amount that it's drawing when you're using power delivery compatible stuff. So
yeah, then it's not a guessing game as to why maybe the light isn't as bright as it should be. So
yeah, so that's that. Now there's one other thing I want to talk about with this guy here. This is another reason I'm really loving these lights. So you have the battery options. Obviously, you have 2 different battery options, and that's really great. But with this, it is the power supply is built into this unit. So you do not have another power supply unit that's dangling off this light. It is simply a AC cable that's plugging directly into the back of this, and it's just a really long cord. So it just really speeds things up. That's why I like these lights so much. It makes it rigging quick. It makes using these really quick. It just simplifies things.
On the set, we have C-stands that are basically in a big U shape, and we have this cord running up and over the set, and we don't have to worry about clamping a power supply down anywhere because the power supply is built into the back of the light.
Now, the other thing with this guy, I'll leave this guy on here. So with these little units, these back plates, the power supplies, is they have one other trick up their sleeve, which I love. I think this is so brilliant. So this is your standard E26 socket.
Yep.
They decided to use this in conjunction with this power supply, and it basically just inserts into here. The one thing I noticed too is when you first put it in, it doesn't always auto lock.
There is a locking pin, but you really have to make sure that it is down and secured all the way.
Yeah. So it does lock it in, which is nice. And when it's locked in, it's not coming undone. And then there's just that little release tab that you pull, and you can pull it back out. Now, why is this so great? This allows you to, again, put it into any E26 socket, which we're shooting on location all the time.
Yep.
And that's something we're seeing is having a, an E26 socket that you can pop this in, whether it's a recessed light in the ceiling or a lamp or something like that. It's just nice that you have that option.
It goes back to CRMX. You can put it in a recessed light and you can make changes on an iPad control without having to pull the fixture out somehow and make changes. So a lot of versatility with this, and kind of goes back to Godox thinking of every possible scenario for how they could use this light, how anybody could use this light.
So that is the light. Generally, we've covered everything with the power and the diffusion, and I think that's really what makes this light unique.
Yep.
Any of the good lights coming out today, really, a lot of them have the same features. If they're professional lights, a lot of them are integrating wireless CRMX and lumen radio, a lot of the same controls. In terms of the menu system, there's some slightly unique things, but generally it's kind of what everyone's coming to expect in some of these professional lights. So I'm not going to talk a ton about that. Again, Godox has their own light. We're using it in a CRMX application.
Yep.
With Sidus Link, which is really, really nice. Other than that, that kind of covers everything with this light. Again, the build quality is great. The accessories are great. Check out Godox website if you want to see kind of just how versatile this light is with all the different attachments.
Now, before we wrap up this, we're going to show you guys how we use them on set, the different applications that we have set up behind us, because you can see a couple of the lights, but there might be a light that you don't notice quite yet. Before we get too far, this whole set is a project that we're working on, and we have a really cool rotating rig light in the back behind this set that is basically emulating a sunset. Starts up top and arcs down. So we are not going to cover that in this video, but stay tuned. Hit the subscribe button if you guys want to see that video. That one's coming out soon. That's going to be talking about all the lights that we have set up on the back side of this set and everything that we're doing there. So I'm going to let Caleb take it away and show you what we're doing here on this set.
We're in the set here, Keenan left, but I'm going to give you guys a breakdown on how we used a couple of these MS60Rs. But before I do that, I do want to talk a little bit again about the wireless CRMX capabilities of these lights. So this scene, we actually did it with 3 different times of the day. The first one was during the daytime, so a daylight setup. The second was at sunset, and then the third was at night. So the lighting was changing quite a bit, and we actually have a few different lights in the back. One that's on a really cool rig that Keenan was talking about. We have these MS60Rs in here. We have one that's bouncing into the ceiling, giving us a little extra fill. So we wanted to be able to quickly program these, not just for changing the light, which was a big part, but we were actually doing a lighting gig where the lighting was actively changing while we were recording. So CRMX allows us to do that, where Bluetooth really, it's great for being able to wirelessly, control a light that's a little bit out of reach. But being able to do program stuff is kind of where you reach the limits of Bluetooth. So that's where this CRMX comes in really handy. But let's jump in and let's talk about the couple little lights we have set up here. So first of all, really simple. We got the caseworker's desk here. This was for a foster organization, and we're making kind of a short film with it. But this is the caseworker's desk. We have a simple lamp here, and we really wanted to just motivate from it. So what we did is we just boomed in one of these little guys and used this softbox like we talked about earlier. The great thing again is this is just such a lightweight little setup. We didn't need a lot. This is a low-key lighting setup. So just a little bit of light is really all we needed to help just wrap around her face in certain spots, and that's what we used right here. Now moving on, we have a similar kind of setup, and this one's being boomed in a similar fashion. We use the square softbox on this little guy, and we actually use some cinefoil here. As you can tell, it's a nice blue cast that's coming out. We really didn't want that shooting onto the wall over here and just totally washing it out with blue. What this guy is doing is it is motivating from our aquarium here. Now, this is the kind of final little lighting setup that we have here. And to give some context, when we were designing this scene, we chose to build this office set because we were having a really hard time finding the right office for what we wanted to do that had the space, that allowed us to do the lighting gigs, and also had availability. That's why we decided to build this set. And with that, we decided we wanted to add an aquarium. The reason for that was we had a lot of warm light. We had warm light coming from the outside. We had tungsten lights in this space, and we really wanted to give some contrast with the color to this scene. But you need to give reason for it and not just have it be random. So with this, the great thing with this light, this tank here, is that we were able to do kind of a fun little blue light on this tank like you'd see with a lot of aquariums. And this is where this Godox came in super handy. We were trying to figure out some solutions of how can we do a light on this. And we ended up going with this because, frankly, it kind of passes as a actual practical within the scene. If you kind of do any Google searching, you'll see that there's a lot of other lights for aquariums that look similar to this. And the reason that we didn't do just a kind of your old school style aquarium usually would have just a light going across and have this totally covered. Well, we wanted it to be open like this, and we wanted to use a cob for a very specific reason. That reason was this awesome lighting effect that you're seeing on the walls here. We just really wanted that kind of that water texture to be kind of dancing on the walls like that. And if we were to use something like a 2-foot bar, you don't get that. You have to use a single point source light to be able to get that water movement. If you're using a bar, you will not get that water movement like you do with this. And with this, we're not actually using anything on it. So it is totally just open, which gives us a really wide beam, which is great because we can get this light really close into the aquarium. We can fill the entire aquarium with light because we're getting that wide spread. Now, we're actually using a little pump in here to keep that water moving. That's how we're getting all that great water movement effect going on the walls. But again, these two lights kind of tie together because, like I said, this one is kind of casting some blue into the space, but just to reinforce with some of the other setups that I'll overlay on this video, we kind of need to reinforce it with another light. So having a light like this that can pass as a practical is really, really cool because you don't have to be so sneaky about hiding it in the scene. You can have it blatantly be in the scene and you wouldn't even know it's an actual film light, which is cool. So that's how we use these Godox MS60R lights in this setup. We're happy with how it turned out. If you're interested to see what is going on behind me with this window and the lighting gag we did out there with the rotating rig, make sure you are subscribed because that will be coming out in the future here. We're pretty proud of it. We think it was a pretty cool idea and execution with what we did with that. And we'll be showing you guys how we did that in an upcoming video. So with that, thanks for watching. Appreciate your guys' support, and we'll see you in the next video.